Welcome to this abandoned project. The reason why I abandoned it is because it got to a point where I started to feel a little bit overwhelmed by the decision making. So I parked it a little bit, and honestly, I advise everyone, if you don't know exactly where to take a project, just pause it for a bit, put it somewhere and come back later. As right now, I had kind of a little bit of time to think about maybe where I want to take this next, and maybe some things that I want to give up that I was trying to push and push and push, make it work, but in the end they were not supposed to work for this project, but maybe will work for a different one. And then I'm going to pass you to Pasta Elena, who is going to show you how I got to here, all the things that I knitted, and kind of show the whole process of what I have so far. And right now I'm just going to talk a little bit about where I think this is going to go right now, and maybe you can compare a little bit to where I was a few weeks ago and where I am right now with this project. So maybe that's something interesting to see, to kind of see how a project sometimes evolves, and hopefully at the end we will have a very nice dress that I can wear. The first piece that I have here is a skirt. This was the initial skirt that I knitted, and then I was going to develop the top part for it, but in the end the top that I developed didn't feel like it would match this. And I'm thinking to maybe just use this as a skirt on its own. To create a skirt, I used partial knitting, and my favorite thing about this is the little scallops that I created, which are also done by using partial knitting. I just here added a little bit of extra kind of texture, which makes this bit a little bit longer. And I think this should just be a skirt on its own. Maybe I'll add just a little waistband and then just have it as a skirt, as it is quite a lot, and I think maybe it needs something very simple to wear at the top, and maybe it shouldn't be knitted. So please let me know what you think, and if you think this is nice, leave a comment and tell me what you think. So that's the first thing that I'm not going to take forward. Next we have some flowers, which are just ladders that are manipulated on the machine. I don't think they belong in this project either. For a while I wanted to use them for this crochet project that I did a while ago, but then again it just didn't belong to that as well. So I think this should be a project on its own, but I do really like this, and I think it could be something really cool. I think this is also the beauty of starting a project without having too much of a plan, as you can see that this is going in a lot of directions, and even though some things were not successful for a particular project, they could be used for something else. These are just samples where I was testing the flare of the skirt, so these can just, maybe I will unravel this and use the yarn for something else. This is the first sample where I was playing with partial knitting and ladders. This again doesn't make really a lot of sense, but I was just having fun without thinking too much. Then I knitted a second sample, and this one started to kind of have a little bit of a shape. I kind of thought about it a little bit on how I could mold it onto the body, but it was not there yet. And then I created a panel and a mirrored version of the same panel, so they can actually make sense, and then they are just nice on both sides even. And then for this one I started to take more notes and actually plan it, and I really like how this has turned out, and I think there's a lot of potential here. So I'm deciding to continue with this, and I have an idea. What I've seen a lot online is that there is a trend where we have a dress that has kind of a panel here, and then it goes all gathered. I'm going to insert a picture what I mean, because I'm probably not explaining it right, but the knitted version of it. So I think next I'm going to knit another panel, and again I will use this as a guide to know how to shape the next one, and hopefully that one will fit a little bit better, as this has a little bit of fit issues and it's also a little bit too small, and if I would wear this there would be a lot of exposed skin, and I don't want that. And then you will see next all the footage with how I got to this point. I really hope that this video is going to make sense. It's not going to be too confusing, but I really want to show the entire process, because really developing and all this process is one of my favorite things, so hopefully you enjoy seeing that as well. Hi there, I'm beginning today's video while I'm still in the process of figuring out what this project will be. I know that it will be a machine knit dress, and I have some ideas, but I don't know exactly how I'm going to use them. And I thought that it would be cool to share the initial idea, or kind of the vision. I wanted to share the vision of this project and realistically to see what actually works from my ideas, what looks nice, and overall what I end up kind of doing. Will it be exactly as my initial idea, or it will change a lot? And hopefully you will enjoy watching the process as well, because how many times we start a project and realize, oh, this idea doesn't work, let me try something else. Oh wow, I thought this would be a really good idea. In paper it looked great, but in practice it's not that nice. So hopefully this will be quite interesting. I do have already some samples to begin with. I spent this morning just playing with ladders. I've always wanted to make myself a dress using ladders because I think they are so cool and could be used in so many different ways. To tell you exactly what my idea is right now without getting any further, I think I'm going to use this meshy fabric, which is literally just ladders. I have 2 needles in work, 4 out of work, and I did a few of this. I think I want to use this as a base, perhaps have it a little bit gathered at the waist so it can create a little bit of volume. I also played with ladders again, and I created this really cute flower. This technique that I just did here, I think could be used in other ways as well. So we'll see which way I will end up using this. I'm thinking to maybe apply these flowers at the top in a specific pattern. I'm not sure. So yeah, this is the main idea, but let's see where this goes. I'm so curious as well. I think this is a little bit too see-through, so I'm going to try a few other options of the same stitch just to see which one I prefer. And also I kind of want to figure out a nice way to begin this, as this edge is not that nice. So basically how I'm going to cast on to get a really nice and neat edge, and we will take it from there. The yarn that I'm using is a cotton, a mercerized cotton, which is nice and shiny. I used 2 ends for this, and for the mesh here I only used 1 end. And here's the thickness of the yarn as well if you want to see. Also, I'm not entirely sure if I want the mesh to be plain or I want to add any designs in it. Maybe I should keep it simple, right? How my brain works. I always try to complicate things. It's a little bit later in the day and I made a couple of decisions. Like I said, I was gonna test the mesh, and I think I prefer this one where I have 2 needles in work, 2 out of work across, rather than 2 in work, 4 out of work across, which I did for the other one. It's not as open, but it's still quite meshy. And I think I'm going to knit the dress in a different color. I initially wanted to knit it in this pink, but I think I'm going to knit it in this burgundy color, as I have a slip-on dress which I can use for that, so I didn't need to buy something new. So I decided to also already test the shaping of the skirt part. Also, if you remember at the beginning of the first clip, I said that I wanted to be gathered at the waist, and actually I'm thinking to shape the skirt using partial knitting. I'm kind of testing to see how dramatic I want this curve to be. This might be a little bit too short, so I might have to use all the needles on my machine, as I'm not using all the needles for this one. I like where this is going. I think I'm going to knit the skirt first and then do the top, as the skirt is the easier part, and then I will add the flowers or the other designs that I decided to use. So I made an impulsive decision and I knitted the skirt. This came out huge. From my little tension swatch, or the test that I did, I learned that I had to do this repeat 16 times so I can wrap it around myself, but it's ginormous. So I think what's happening is, because it's knitted sideways, it's knitted that way rather than knitted this way like you would normally knit from bottom up usually, it stretches so much here at the top I think I'm going to decide on the size that I want it to be, and I'm going to attach it on my linker so I can kind of gather it a little bit or give it a bit of a structure basically, so it doesn't stretch so much, because this shouldn't have come so long. What I wanted to do with the bottom edge, I wanted to add a frill all over, and I did a few tests. I'm going to insert here a couple of pictures or video, I don't know exactly if I took, but in the end I decided that that didn't look quite great for this project, so I did that frill only in some parts of the repeat pattern, and we achieved a little kind of a scalloped edge, which I actually really like. I think it's more unique, I guess, this way. And I think once I gather this thing a little bit, we will get a really lovely effect with these sections that are a little bit longer. I of course recorded this, so I'm going to show you now how I did this. I'm going to measure myself just to see kind of how much I want to reduce the width of that, since I want it to overlap a little bit at least. Right, this is 98 centimeters, and let's see how big this is actually. One thing about me is that sometimes I tend to overthink things, and I never move on with some parts of it. Wow, can you actually see me? And sometimes I go like this, pam, 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 decision making in 2 seconds. This is one of those instances. Actually, I'm not quite sure how to do this. I started by gathering it a little bit as I place it onto the linker, but I can't be sure if I'm gathering enough so that the whole piece will be 90 centimeters. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to gather everything a little bit and go all around one time. And if I feel like I need to do it even more after, I will do it one more time. I measured the linker, and the linker is 70 something centimeters. I need around 98, so I need a little bit more than the linker. I think I'm just gonna go for it because I'm starting to overthink this. I'm trying to catch exactly where would be the first ladder that I had on the machine, but again, because it stretched so much,
You can't even see that ladder, so I'm just trying to go in the same stitch to go nice and straight. Update time. I finished gathering the skirt. I put it once onto the linker, I sewed it, then I took it out. It was still too loose, so I put it back on the linker and gathered it even more and then went again. And I think now I'm happy with the width of it. However, to be completely honest, I'm not loving it. It's not what I envisioned. I mean, I know I didn't have much of a vision, but I know I didn't envision this, if that makes sense. As I'm not loving how this looks, I thought to go a little bit loco and a little bit creative and maybe add more length to at least one side of the skirt by including a panel. Perhaps that would go up into the body and it will kind of lower one side of the skirt like that. I also got really excited in the meantime and I knitted a panel. I would call this free-form knitting. We know there is a thing as free-form crochet. I'll say this is that same thing in knitting, where I kind of use partial knitting and I created a sort of a weird, interesting shape. And I'm thinking to kind of go super creative with the top part and kind of go in different angles and maybe, I don't know, but I think it could look really cool. So just kind of want to show you. Let's say this part here is much longer and then this one will be shorter. Maybe I'll put this on the floor so you can see better. Okay, and then here I'm trying to kind of start to build a funky panel. I'm kind of loving this already, and imagine I can grow different panels from one. I think I might just continue just having fun with this piece. This is just a fun little project where I'm allowing myself to be as creative as I can, and if it turns out good, it turns out good, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. Important is that I had fun in the process, am I right? I think I'm just going to continue either knitting other panels like this or adding up onto this one. It's the next day. I knitted one more panel, just like the previous one that I showed you in the previous clip, where I kind of went a little bit off-road with my shaping. To be honest, I'm not sure if I'm loving this idea anymore. I know, I will go back and forth. And normally I do go back and forth with lots of projects, but sometimes you don't see this, as I only share the final idea or when I make my mind up. But like I said in this video, we're sharing everything that goes through my head, you're gonna know about it. And I'm thinking that maybe I should actually knit two panels and mirror them. So they are the mirror version of each other, and that could look quite interesting on the body. This section here of this panel, it kind of looks like a little cap sleeve. You can see the way I shaped it here, it kind of molds nicely onto the body. So I'm loving this, and this could potentially be the sleeve for both of them. So I have to kind of really think about it and well, try to plan it somehow. I still like the idea of having the skirt longer on one side, so perhaps one of these two panels can be a little bit longer than the other one, and then that would get that effect. I think this could go either a statement piece and like awesome, or it could be, I don't want to use the word, but I think I'll say it like literal trash. But yeah, it's exciting still. I'm having so much fun just playing with this, and I really hope that you are enjoying seeing the process as well. Let's see where we get with this. I'm going to knit another panel now and kind of try to plan it a little bit. I'm going to make sure to write notes so I know what to do for the other one in case it's successful. I know it's not it, okay? I know, but trust the process, okay? Let's try to trust the process. I think this could really work. You can see how I also connected the two panels. I basically, when I knitted the second panel, I took all the stitches off the machine, I placed it through the first panel and then placed it back on the machine. So I have also a connection of the two panels. Right now I like how this sits nicely on the shoulder, as I kind of shaped this bottom part to create a little bit of a cap sleeve really. And now I'm not quite sure how to do for the other panel, because you can see that this is curved a little bit here. This panel is knitted from this side up, so I'm thinking when I start the next panels, because I want to make two more for the back or for the front, I'm not sure. I kind of like the idea of having this as a back panel, like a really open back. And I'm thinking maybe the skirt will be better for some other project. I should make a skirt that is more simple for this one. I'm kind of loving where this is going, and it's kind of, I don't know, I like how this is sculptured, and I don't know if the skirt works for this one now. I think what I'm going to do next, I'm going to knit two more panels. I mean, this one here at the bottom could have actually been knitted in one piece, so I don't have a seam here in the middle. Maybe for the next panel, I don't do this opening, and could I knit this panel in one go from here, for example? So it's like one piece for the front. I'm probably going to knit 8 or something panels of this one until it actually looks nice, but I'm so excited to experiment, and I'm just having so much fun developing this top. I'm sure now that something nice will come out of it, one way or another. It's either going to be a really lovely top and we scrap the skirt and we just have a lovely sculptured top, or I'm going to use this top for a different skirt and make a more simple dress, a more maybe not so voluminous skirt. Is that a word, voluminous? Or I'm scrapping this and I'm going to make a simple top for the skirt, or I'm making two dresses. Well, my brain is going 1,000 miles per hour, but really this is what goes through my head right now, and I'm sharing all that. This is where this is at right now, and I'm going to tell you the things I'm thinking to do for the next top. Well, first of all, I have to make everything a little bit bigger. So I need this panel to be way wider here so it can actually fit me when I tie it to the other panel at the back. And also here we need a little bit more coverage, so I'm going to make this not so open here. And also, this was supposed to be the front panel initially, but I'm not sure if I'm loving this overlapping situation here, so I might give up on that. Also, another thing I want to change, you can see here how it's shaped like this. Well, I would like that this would be shaped the other way. So basically this would come here like that. And then I have that space to create that gathering that I was telling you. I'm not going to show a lot of the knitting process. I don't want this video to be too long, but you can kind of get the idea. It's all shaped using partial knitting. It's quite simple, but I think the more difficult part is just the planning, to know exactly how many rows to knit, which, to be honest, I'm not doing a lot of calculation for it. I'm kind of going by the eye, and I'm using what I already have to kind of juggle a little bit the rows and stuff. So it's not like I'm doing a lot of planning. Good morning, everybody. It is a new day for me. Last night I stayed and worked a little bit later just so I can finish all the panels for the dress, as I would like to assemble it today. I have here the top part, or the body of the dress, and here is the skirt. At the moment the skirt is 3 rectangles. I'm going to tell you what I did for the top panel just to shape it like this. At the moment, if I'm looking at it, it looks like a basic thing, but I think the technique that I use to shape it is a little bit interesting. So I'm going to just explain to you how I knitted it and kind of the steps that I took. Hopefully you can learn something from this. I really had fun knitting this and kind of figuring out. So I'm going to tell exactly what I did here. Right, so I began knitting on this side, and the whole panel is knitted in one go. We don't have any seams. The initial designs that I had a seam on the shoulder, but I found that it's quite difficult to neatly sew ladders, and I just thought that I could work out a way to not have the seam at the shoulder, and that's exactly what I did. So I'm going to explain you kind of what I did just so you can see. I started the panel here at the bottom, and you can see that I shaped it to go a little bit like this, so the edges here are shorter. So what I did, I put needles on hold on the edges, and then every 4 rows I brought 2 more needles in holding position. Then I knitted 70 rows straight, and you can see here that I split into 2 parts. So I put one side onto waste yarn and removed it completely off the machine, and I continued only knitting one section at a time. And here, to shape this side so it kind of serves as a sleeve, I shaped it so that this section here is longer and this one is shorter. And then again, I put needles on hold on the edge here, and every 4 rows I would bring more needles into holding position. Here, to shape this, I increased a total of 5 sections of 2 needles. This was the reason why I had to remove this section of the machine, because obviously if these needles would be in action, I wouldn't be able to increase in this section, so I removed it completely. And after, I decreased the same number of stitches as I increased here, so we're back to what we had before. And then to finish off, again, I shaped so this section is shorter, so I started putting needles on hold in the edge here. Once I finished this side, I hooked back these stitches back onto the machine, and I placed onto waste yarn the ones where I had just finished, so I can continue with this side. And then again, I had to remove the stitches so I can increase. Then I did on this side exactly what I did here. I increased, I decreased, and then I shaped again using partial knitting to shape this side so it's shorter. And then in the end, I attached back these stitches onto the machine, and I continued with 70 more rows straight. And then again, to mirror the same thing on this side, I began putting needles on hold on the edges, and then every 4 rows I brought 2 more needles into holding position until I got to the center, and then I just cast off. It's quite interesting how, depending on which direction you are shaping, it looks different. You can see here where we started, the holes that we are forming when we are doing the partial knitting are kind of here at the top, and then here for the last section where I did the exact same thing, the holes are like that. So these are actually some things to consider when you are designing, I guess, and it's very interesting to see. As well as here, you can see that I did the exact same thing, but because of the direction of the knit, we have here the partial knitting holes that are kind of on the diagonal, and then here on the other side, they are kind of straight here. Now I have to decide kind of which side I want it to be the front, and I think this one looks a little bit nicer. And also one thing that I did as well was I kind of latched back the ladder at the very edge just to tighten this a little bit, as the neckline came a little bit too loose and I didn't like that. And now what I would like to do is to join these 3 panels together. So it's kind of a tube, I think. So we will have 3 seams here, which I'm thinking, as the dress will be like this, one of the seams could be right at the back, and then the 2 panels could be joined somewhere here, so that we don't have a seam right in the middle in the front, we have 2 seams here. Also, we have to do, like I said before, we have to do here the side seams. I don't know if what I said just now makes any sense, but this is what I did. I don't know, let me know what you think. I might try to kind of write down some notes if anyone would like to try this. I thought this was a great exercise for my brain, because I had to figure everything that I'm doing here to be mirrored on the other side, and then everything I do on one side to be mirrored on this other side. It was very interesting to kind of figure this out. I really enjoyed it was a little challenge, so I really enjoyed that. So now I'm going to move on. As I said, I'm going to attach these panels with each other, do the side seam, and then I'll show you where we are at next. And here she is. In the end, after all that work, I have a simple and wearable dress, and I think that's a win. I'm really happy with how it turned out. It is nowhere near perfect, but I will definitely be wearing it this summer. Some things that didn't come perfectly are the seams on the skirt, right there where they join the body of the dress, but I did hide them with these ribbon bows. Thank you, Maria, for the idea, it's so cute. Also, the back came out a little bit too loose, so I latched the ladders all the way to where the holes from doing the short rows were, and that fixed the fit issues. Looking back to when I started, some of those initial ideas were not very wearable, but we'll keep them and come back to them at a later time. I don't normally show this whole process, and I kind of feel a little bit vulnerable in a way to share the mess that is going in my brain while I design.
Mess maybe is not the right word that I should be using, but you know what I mean. I really hope that you enjoyed the video regardless. Please let me know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye! Also, why is my voice so different when I record myself reading a script? It's so funny. Okay, ciao ciao!